Hello again everyone. We've just recently made a big but really exciting purchase.
We've bought a campervan. Well, it's actually not a campervan just yet. It's just an empty van, but we're going to convert it into a wheelchair accessible campervan.
So this van is a VW T6 transporter van, long wheelbase.
Transporters have quite low roofs, as you can see, and can't stand up properly in them. We did actually want a bigger van than this. We wanted a Mercedes Sprinter or a VW Crafter. So for those of you that have asked and have wondered, yes, Craig can drive. However, he can only drive if the gearbox is automatic. Now here in the UK, most cars and vans have manual gearboxes, and we really struggled trying to find a Crafter or a Sprinter that had an automatic gearbox that also was of the right age and mileage and condition and everything we wanted. So because we couldn't find that, we ended up broadening our search, and we found out that transporters are much more widely available in automatic than any of the other vans.
So we do still want a larger van, something like a Crafter or a Sprinter, but because we can't find one second-hand, we're going about ordering a new one. But because of the current situation with things like coronavirus, ordering a new van takes a really long time. We're talking probably 6 months to a year. And we want something we can use now, since we can't go to New Zealand or do our other travel plans that we had.
There are a couple of benefits to having a smaller van though. First of all, it is much easier to drive and park. Neither of us have really had much experience driving large vehicles, so it's definitely nice to get used to a smaller vehicle that's easier to drive before we progress onto a massive van. We can actually park in a normal parking space with just a little bit hanging over the edge. We wouldn't be able to do that at all in a bigger van. We'd have to find somewhere else to park. So that's really nice, and also that it is lower means that we can get underneath some height barriers, which we also wouldn't be able to do in a high roof van. So it's definitely a nice stepping stone to sort of get used to driving a van before we then progress onto a much bigger van that will be a nightmare to drive.
We're going to be attempting this conversion ourselves, and we have little to no DIY experience. So the other reason we chose a transporter in particular is because they are probably the most common campervan in the UK, which means it's really easy to find pre-made parts for the transporter. For example, you can get pre-cut floors, pre-cut walls, and lots of furniture which is designed to fit exactly in a transporter, which makes the conversion a hell of a lot easier, especially as it's our first time converting a van. So right now I have to transfer into the van. So into the back of the van is not too bad. The floor of the van is a similar height to my wheelchair, so it's a relatively level transfer, so that's fine. The front, however, is a different story. So if I want to transfer into the front, I need to go from here up to about here. And that is a lot harder. It is possible, but it puts a lot of strain on my shoulders. We have thought about solutions to get into the van. We've considered getting a lift, but we want to avoid that because they're expensive, they're bulky, and they are prone to breakdowns quite often. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Another idea we had was putting in an underfloor ramp, but because the ceiling height in the transporter is so low, if we add an underfloor ramp, that would raise the height of the floor, and that would mean we'd be hitting our heads on the ceiling all the time. So that's also something we want to avoid. So we're still thinking of another solution. If anyone has any suggestions, then please let us know. We'd really like to hear them. So we're going to be making videos as we go along, documenting our progress. Now this isn't by any means going to be a how-to guide on how to convert a campervan. I mean, neither of us really have any DIY experience or really know what we're doing. We're actually going to be watching a lot of YouTube videos along the way and learning as we go. But we feel like this could be a good guide to show, that hopefully it is possible for someone in a wheelchair and as a couple where neither of us have DIY experience to convert a campervan. So stick with us on the journey, and hopefully we'll show you that it is possible if you were thinking about doing it yourselves.